The Law Be With You podcast show, also known as Christian Fandom Geek on YouTube, is now part of the Red 5 network. Red 5 is a network of podcast shows aimed at bringing great quality content, especially Star Wars. And so look forward to some awesome collaborations on the Red 5 network with the Law Be With You podcast show.
Yes. And I think all of that said, when I watched Man of Steel, I said this to my mate. I was texting him randomly about these movies the other day because we both don't like Zack Snyder and we like to just sort of text back and forth.
And once again, guys, if you're a Zack Snyder fan, that's all good. Like, this is not a personal ad hominem attack against Zack Schneider. Yeah. I'm sure in real life he's a really nice guy. He comes across like a nice guy, to be fair. And actually, his films are visually beautiful. This is the thing you can say. I know there's some issues in terms of, we talk about CGI and things like that. But actually, if you just take it from a very artistic point of view, his films look gorgeous. Some of the scenes in his films look beautiful.
Well, again, it really depends on, and he shouldn't get the credit for that, by the way. The director of photography is the person behind scenes looking good. Zack Snyder is the one who just directs. He says, this is my vision for the project, this is what I want. But it's actually the DOP who makes the vision look good. So don't give Zack Snyder credit for scenes looking good. It's actually the director of photography. Now, I don't know who it is on certain movies, but for example, for 300, they had a different director of photography than they did in any of the movies that followed from Zack Snyder in terms of the DC universe. So, yeah, don't be fooled by that, because a director's role is simply to bring to life the story. Now, with him, he tends to be the one who's written the story as well, which should, and we've discussed this, I think, before with, what's his name, Lucas, with the Star Wars movie. If you've written the story and directing it, you should be able to get the full vision of what you want, because you've written it. You know the context of every scene that you direct.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of that. I actually think that writers shouldn't be directors as well.
I remember you say that. We talked about this.
It's a very dangerous game.
Because we talked about this in our Forbidden Planet episode, didn't we? On our Forbidden Planet versus Star Wars episode, we spoke about this.
That's a Zack Snyder trait, is that he loves to be in control, like complete control. In his mind, the best way to make a movie is, I'm writing it, I'm going to direct it as well. Because if I leave the direction in the hands of someone else, they're going to get it wrong, because I have a very specific vision for what I want.
Let me interject.
Snyder's vision isn't very popular.
Let me interject here, though. Let me play devil's advocate here, okay?
Of course.
In this situation. First of all, I would say Zack Snyder is popular. Look at the outcry on the internet to get his version, his edit of the Justice League made, which obviously has been fulfilled on HBO Max. There was a huge outcry on social media, on Twitter,
which isn't hard. And again, I'll throw that back. It's not hard Twitter's known for small niche audiences with hardcore fan bases making big noises, but they're very small audiences. So the wrestling audience is in direct comparison to Zack Snyder's cult of followers at the moment. The wrestling audience today is not what it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where there were over 10 million people in America watching wrestling each week. Over 10 million people. That is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
Today, they're struggling. The same company is struggling to have just over 1 million viewers each week. So it's 10 times less powerful than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, now, obviously, the Attitude Era was popular and things like that. Yeah.
And yet, that hardcore fan base of wrestling fans still have a large say in what happens in the product. But here's the thing, that doesn't make the product popular. All it means is that hardcore fan base has got louder. But the wider audience are fed up. They don't like it. They don't want to watch it. And that's what the numbers show. And that's what happened with Snyder's stupid 4-hour bore fest. The fans who love Snyder love it. They love it because they're cultists. They follow him. They love what he's doing. That's fine, but it's a niche.
Is that
The
not
rest
a
of
bit, is that not
popular
a bit harsh?
society
Is that not a bit
didn't
harsh?
like it.
Is that not a little bit harsh?
Well, I'm going off the facts of how many people HBO were mad. Warner Brothers have been disappointed by it, and they've said that publicly that they expected it to have more. Yeah, of course, because they expected it to be better than it was. They've cut Zack Snyder off of doing any other movies. They've already said that they're not going to give him his next movie that he wanted to make. He wanted to continue the Justice League, and for Warner Brothers to say no, that says everything it needs to about the lack of success that movie's had. I wish it had happened without COVID, because it would have proved the point in the box office, because nobody would have watched that movie other than the loud minority on Twitter that always seems to somehow, and I'm not even just talking about him right now, I'm talking about in all different societal issues, this ridiculously loud minority seems to have a major influence on what gets pushed forward, whether it's in politics or in culture itself. And unfortunately, this is one of the things I hate about Twitter, is that it gives too much of a voice to the minorities, because the majority don't care. That's what do you mean? The majority don't care.
So deconstruct that a little bit more. What do you mean when you say minorities? And obviously we're talking in context to, superhero films, aren't we? Now we're talking fandom. We're talking fandom stuff. So within the world of fandom, you're saying that the ones that are supporting Zack Snyder, that want, Justice League 2 and Justice League 3, or even a Man of Steel 2 or Man of Steel 3 film, and the one Zack Snyder to write the film and direct it, you're saying that they, within fandom, within the context of fandom, they are not the minority voice. That's what you're saying.
Well, they don't feel like it. No, of course not. Because if you're a hardcore fan of something, you don't feel like you're the minority. You feel like everyone should love what you love because you love it so much. They're so sold on Zack Snyder and being this genius and visionary.
Yes.
That what they've done is, and this is the problem when you follow someone so closely, you narrow your own mindset and imagination and what's possible. You begin to believe that his way is the only way. You don't actually start to think logically and think, well, what if another director and writer got a hold of this story? What would they, or what could they do with this? If we all thought like the minority, what would happen is Zack Snyder would own the universe and would do everything for DC Comics. He would be in charge of the whole universe. We would never get Christopher Nolan movies. We would never get James Wan, who created, and James Wan is a great example of how a small niche can become popular. He created The Conjuring. He wrote the story and directed it. Well, actually, he had a co-writer, but he was the director. And what he did was blow up this movie and this idea into popular society, to the point where James Wan was then told by Warner Brothers, you now have to we want you to direct Aquaman. So that's how James Wan got involved with Aquaman, and now he's in the DC universe because of that. I just watched The Conjuring 3. Guess what? It was crap. It was crap because he's not directing it anymore. He's not involved. So what's happened
but they want him to pretty much save. Well, not only James Wan, but they want him to be one of a sort of cohort of directors to save.
And this is that's stupid, because James Wan isn't necessarily, his passion was horror. Because he's a Christian, his passion was spiritual movies, and the movies that he made and grew that.
I didn't know he was a Christian.
Niche audience of Christians loved the movies that he was making because they realized this guy is telling spiritual stories in a very real way. He's actually.
I didn't know he was a Christian.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah,
I didn't know that. I'm quite excited about that.
Which is why I am definitely a James Wan fan. However, I'm not to the level that I would want him to take over. Like, I wanted him to finish his trilogy of Conjuring movies, but I didn't want him to direct every horror movie out there. Because that's stupid.
You're saying that they're going too far. You're saying they're going too far.
I don't think Zack Snyder ever created a good movie to be able to base this idea that he should continue making more in terms of superhero movies.
What about what you said to the 300?
300 was based on a real story, though.
Okay. Yes, of
Do you know
course.
what I mean?
I mean,
It was
it's
based on real life. The story was written.
Yeah, history. Yeah, it's history, isn't it? I mean, like some of these characters are in the Bible. Like it's based on real stories, real things that happened in the world.
That's not hard to do. Like, and again, different director. When you've got the director, the DOP. I hate saying director of photography, but that's what it's a DOP. That's what it's known as.
No, hang on. DOP sounds cool. It sounds like a wrestling group in the WWE from the Attitude Era. Here comes the DOP. Well, anyway, here we go.
It does, but like that's
the NWO versus the.
In the industry, it's DOP.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know me, I have produced short film myself. I've made it. I've filmed stuff, so I know a lot of the ways that you would talk about different roles. DOP that's one of the things how you would describe it.
That's one of the So, guys at home, guys and girls at home, that's one of the great reasons why Stephen Harper is on the show as a collaborator. Not just because he looks young for his age.
Is that going to be on every episode now?
It's on every episode. That's your thing. That's like, you know, when we talk about you, we talk about how young you look for your age. That's a thing now. That's a real thing for you. But yeah, you do know about film. You know about it from a technical point of view, don't you? And the film industry as well. So and you have your own index of over 500 movies. So I mean, that's pretty cool in its own right as well. So
yeah, and I was sad enough to digitize them all. If anybody who's going to spend 3 weeks of their life simply dedicated to putting movies onto an external hard drive, I think that shows how much I love movies and watching them, because I wouldn't recommend it to anyone unless it's something you're absolutely passionate about.
And you're very technical as well. Like when it comes to movies, the way that you deconstruct movies, you're very technical about that. And I do enjoy that sort of very technical mindset that you bring to the game. So yeah, I do appreciate that.
Well, that's what I was saying to you. Like, to go back to your original point here. When you say that Zack Snyder's movies look good, that's not him. That's actually the director of photography who's there doing the hard work and making it look good. It's all down to their vision and editing skills. That's what makes a movie look good, when you've got a good director of photography. The same way as the score, for example, in a movie makes the world of difference. And like I said, I just watched The Conjuring 3. If you listen to the score of The Conjuring 2 compared to 3, it's light and day. The Conjuring 2 is the peak of James Wan in the horror genre of movies. That is the movie to watch, because it's such a good movie in every sense. The story's brilliantly written because it was based on real life. The direction was perfect because James Wan wasn't the writer, because it was based on real life. He didn't have to do much to change the story to make it work in a cinematic world. And then the director of photography was fantastic. He got exactly what James Wan was hoping for in terms of making it look real and not feeling fake or fantasy based. But the audio of that movie was, to me, the standout. Whoever did I don't even know yet, but whoever did the audio mix for that movie was fantastic. Just did a great job. And he's probably working on major motion pictures now because of that one. So all of that together makes a movie. And the director alone, really the director's job is to make the actors act and to get the lines said in a way that are credible and continue the story and make it work. And their job is to make sure, obviously, that everybody's positioned and doing the things they're supposed to do in each scene. That's the director's job. And most directors overkill it. I think Zack Snyder's one of them. But I will say about Man of Steel, it started really well. I really, really liked the beginning of Man of Steel. I thought that, obviously, having Superman's parents, and I say that as sort of both sets of parents on Krypton and on Earth, I think having both sets of parents, bringing them and integrating them into the story was fantastic. And
I agree. That was good.
The problem with the Man of Steel for me was that it started great and progressively got more and more average as the story went on. And I felt that the finish of that story was just sort of meh. Like, it didn't leave me wanting to watch more, but the beginning was so good that I liked it. I came away from Man of Steel liking the movie. So for all the stuff I say about Zack Snyder, the movie overall for Man of Steel was definitely his second best movie that he'd made. So that was good, and I thought it was a good base to formulate a new foundation for Superman going forward. So at that point, when was it, 2013 or something, when it was made, when it came out, I was hopeful. And that's the thing, I was hopeful, which is a very Superman trait. So I was actually, I really enjoyed it, and I was like, okay, maybe Superman now is going to start going back in the direction we need it to go. And maybe they're going to actually take Superman more seriously. And at that time, Christopher Nolan was pitching to do Superman. He wanted to jump from Batman to Superman.
Oh, wow. How amazing would that have been?
And guess what? Zack Snyder, Warner Brothers, they decided between them that Christopher Nolan wasn't the right person to take Superman forward. So Christopher Nolan was involved with Man of Steel.
I know he was. I know.
Yeah.
I know he was.
And not many people know this. And that is why Man of Steel was good. It wasn't Zack Snyder. I don't give him any credit for that. I give all the credit to Christopher Nolan because he was forced onto the project, which I'm sure Zack Snyder didn't like, because he probably felt like, you know, they're taking over what I am envisaging as my vision, my project.
Christopher Nolan is a great director. He really is.
One of my few regrets in life was when I was in a Starbucks in London and he was in there talking to someone, and I never went over and said anything to him.
No, you did. Oh man, you should have went over, man. Oh my gosh.
I was in a meeting. I was in a work meeting, and like all I could see over the guy's shoulder I was talking to was Christopher Nolan, and I had to explain halfway through the meeting. Like,
mate, can we just stop this interview right now? I need to talk to this guy. I need to talk to this guy. That's what you should have said to him. Listen, dude.
Well, I stopped him and I actually said, I'm sorry if I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at, and the guy was with, fortunately, was another movie lover. So I said to him, like, dude, Christopher Nolan's over there talking to someone. And the fan in me wants to go over and talk to him, but the human in me understands that there's nothing more annoying than having fans come over to you and talk to you when you're trying to do stuff. So
I know, but come on,
I held back.
I know, I get what you're saying there. You want to be cool. You don't want to be like Finn in Star Wars with Ray. You don't want to be. You don't want to be like.
But look. It's all context. If I'd have been in the movie industry, I would have talked to him. I think that's the big difference for me. Yeah, so it's weird.
That was a nice little story. Well, okay, going back to what we're saying, we're finishing off now. This was supposed to be a shorter episode, but like we tried. Honestly, guys at home, we tried. I tried to go this. I wanted this episode 10 minutes, 15 point at a max. So we are finishing off now. Okay, so essentially,
so what else? There was Man of Steel.
But
I think I've kind of rounded that one off. That was
you have.
It was a good movie, but not because of Zack Snyder on his own. I'm not going to give him no credit. I think he does deserve a little bit. Because he still directed it, whether Christopher Nolan was overriding it or not. Because essentially what happened was Christopher Nolan, he had the final say on how it looked. So even though Zack Snyder was supposed to be the visionary for it, Christopher Nolan was the one who was adding things like, remember the when Superman went into space and he burst the sound barrier and you saw the actual bubble of sound.
Yeah.
That was Christopher Nolan's idea. And it was those pieces of detail that I really appreciate and love, because it was so new. And you'd never thought of stuff like that. And yet it made perfect sense, because it was like, of course, if he's going to fly faster than sound, he's going to break the sound barrier. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was stuff like that Nolan did, that he's just obviously a great director, full stop, regardless of any love that he has for superhero movies. And it is that attention to detail that he brought to Man of Steel that I really loved. And then, of course, Russell Crowe, the actors that got involved because of Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
Which is why you saw Costner, you saw Russell Crowe in the movie. Like, as much as Russell Crowe was in that movie. You
Wasn't
actually
in it for
saw
long,
these
was it?
guys
But
but they put their names to it because of Christopher Nolan. And Christopher Nolan, from what I understand, basically built the first 2/3 of the movie, and then
oh
Snyder
wow,
was the one who finished it, which is why that was what triggered me to think, oh, that makes sense. That's why I didn't like the end of the movie, because that was Snyder's ending, but it was a Christopher Nolan movie for 2/3 of it, and that's why I love the build-up of the past and the history. If you watch Batman, Batman Begins,
yeah,
Nolan does the same thing with Batman. He goes back and tells the real story of how
yeah.
Bruce
He's a
Wayne
very
becomes Bruce Wayne.
yeah. He's very
Compelling.
good at sort of a sort of Genesis story, isn't he? He's very good at this sort of showing the archetypal roots, showing the foundation of a
Yeah.
character, building the arc up, and essentially the hero's story, the hero's journey. He's
Yeah,
very
because
good at it.
he knows that if you're a viewer, the only way you're going to come back to watch another movie is if you're bought into the person that you're watching. If you're not bought into that character, you're not coming back. You're just going to be like, forget it. This is awful. And that's what
Yeah.
happens with Snyder movies. But with Nolan's, it was especially with Batman, like he pulled Batman from the dead. Literally, that series, people didn't think there would be another Batman after the flipping Joel Schumacher debacle. Like,
don't even go there, because that's another episode. That's probably a trilogy of episodes in its own right. Okay, we're not going to even go there. But I will say this: totally agree with you. The Batman trilogy is amazing. It is just such quality, iconic filmmaking, storytelling, and this is what I would say. If you're thinking about a new Star Wars film, if you're thinking about a new Star Wars trilogy, who would be better? If you're thinking outside of Disney Lucasfilm right now, look at someone like Christopher Nolan.
well, he's done Interstellar. Like, he's clearly into the sci-fi.
Yeah, imagine what he could do.
That's
imagine
somebody
what
I'd approach.
Imagine what he could do with Star Wars.
Consider it.
What could he do with Star
Wars? That's the thing, because when you've got somebody who's actually very good at their job, guess what? They're above everybody else's level of imagination and interpretation. So what Christopher Nolan could do is you couldn't think of it. It would be like Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey type of interpretation of like doing something that we haven't necessarily seen before. In that genre, we probably have seen it in cinema at somewhere, but in terms of Star Wars, he would bring definitely a deeper level of character progression through the whole arc. He would make sure that movie 1 connects with movie 3, and number 2 is the bridge between the two. He would tell the story properly, because that's what Christopher Nolan really specializes in.
I'm going for it now, guys, and hashtag this Christopher Nolan new Star Wars trilogy. I want John Boyega back as Finn, but I want it done properly. Not that version of Finn. I want Finn. Come on. You know, we all know what it's like when a guy likes a girl, but come on, brother, get it together. Okay. You know, I want that.
Yeah,
I want Finn and Rey, dual central protagonists. I want it. I'm calling it now. I want Nolan working with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I want those guys working together. A new Star Wars trilogy. I'm calling it now, guys. Come on, let's do it.
It'd be good. It would be good, and it would certainly be one that'd be the most hyped I would personally be to watch Star Wars. If he was involved, somebody of that level. Well, who else is out there that would do a good job with it? I think somebody like Francis Ford Coppola, or however you can say his name. I would have loved him to have made Star Wars movies, because he's just got a perfect cinematic eye. But I don't think it's his genre. I don't think that's something he would do, because I don't think he's ever done it. Other than that, you've got it. Sci-fi is such a difficult. Again, sci-fi is a niche area, but it can, as we've seen time and time again, blow up into popular culture. It's the same with the horror genre as well. It's like a very niche, but it has that potential to explode and reach everyone. And the comic book superhero genre is the same. It's a niche audience, but it has a very big potential to reach a lot of people. And we've seen Marvel do a great job of exploiting that recently, but DC aren't. They're the ones it's Warner Brothers who are messing up at the moment, and they're making the whole DC universe seem like a bit of an embarrassment in terms of cinema at the moment. It's a shame. It's a real shame, because DC has better characters, and that's probably going to be a controversial statement, but DC has the best story arcs in terms of its heroes and villains. I don't care about Iron Man's shiny gear. Batman's story and his backstory, everything about him as a character is fascinating. I don't give a crap about Tony Stark and his billions. Like, to me, that's an easy story to tell. But Bruce Wayne's is very complicated. Same with Superman. He actually has this it's not dark, but it's a very complicated story. And that's what I want to see in a Superman movie. I need to see that story being told. And if it's not, I'm not interested. And that's why with Zack Snyder, he's always bothered about the fantasy element. I'm bothered about the realism. And I think most moviegoers are bothered about the realism. And I don't think Zack Snyder connects enough to the realism of each character. He's far more out there in terms of, he's a fan of comics. So he wants to focus solely on the superhero powers and the universe that they live in, rather than what made this person who they are. And that to me is the separation, and why I don't like any of his superhero movies, because he's not in tune with reality. He's a fan making movies instead of having somebody make movies from a storytelling point first and saying, how do we build the character, and where's the end goal for this character? What is the story arc? To me, there's no development with Snyder's movies. Each movie could be its own standalone movie.